the talking bench.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the RAC meeting to start. And the first thing I'd like to do is make sure from Jared that we have a quorum. Great, thank you, Jared. And maybe we could do introductions of the RAC members who are here at the meeting, and then we'll see if we have anybody online, any RAC, no RAC members online. Okay, so maybe we can start on this, going around this way.
And Bill Bowles from Park County.
Warden Rick from the city of Fountain.
Laura Chronic, Town of Monument. Joe Ruth, Colorado Springs.
Thank you. And again, we have nobody online, so we will go on. Agenda approval. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved. This is Joe Ruth.
Okay,
Second, Laura Chronic.
thank you. And then a vote to accept the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Consent items, and which is the motion to approve the minutes from the previous RAC meeting. Can I get a first or a motion?
Warden Rick moved to approve.
Thank you. And then a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. And then a vote to accept the minutes from the previous RAC meeting. Say
Yes,
aye.
aye.
Yes, aye.
Great. Jared, do we have any public comments?
Madam Chair, we do not have anyone who has submitted public comments in advance in this meeting, or no one has requested public comment. If anyone would like to provide public comment at this time, please raise their hand, and I'll ask the same for those who are online who are not RAC members. Please use the raise hand function if you'd like to provide public comment at this time. And I see no hands raised virtually or in person, so I think you can move forward at your discretion.
Thank you. We're just zipping through this. Okay, we do have an action item. We have a proclamation regarding the 50th anniversary, and I think Jody's going to read it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my honor today to read the proclamation of the 50th anniversary, or acknowledging the 50th anniversary of the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging, and in turn the Older Coloradans Act, which brings us to today. So, proclamation by the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Regional Advisory Council acknowledging the 50th anniversary of the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging this September 2024. Whereas the Federal Older Americans Act was passed in 1965, followed by the Older Coloradans Act in 1974, and then the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging's founding in 1974. And whereas the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging's 50 years of leadership in aging services for El Paso, Park, and Teller counties has resulted in positive aging resources and services for older adults and their caregivers. And whereas older Coloradans improve our communities through intergenerational relationships, community service, civic engagement, and many other activities. And whereas communities benefit when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds have the opportunity to participate and live independently. And whereas the Pikes Peak region must ensure that older Coloradans have the resources and support needed to age in place and stay involved in their communities. Therefore, be it proclaimed, we of the Regional Advisory Council, the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, do hereby proclaim September 2024 in celebration of 50 years of service by the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging in the Pikes Peak region. We call upon all residents to join us in recognizing the contributions of the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging to our older citizens and promoting programs and activities that foster connection, inclusion, and support for older adults by the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging. Approved and adopted by the Regional Advisory Council of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments this 26th day of September 2024 in Colorado Springs, Colorado. To be signed by Debbie Levin Stankovich, Chair, and attested by Bill Bowles, Second Vice Chair. Madam Chair, we just asked for a vote of the members to approve this proclamation, which will also be shared during our celebration in just a little while. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Can we get a vote on that proclamation? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great,
Aye.
thank you. Okay, we're on number 6 here, information items. The first one is presentations, and I don't think we have anything this month. Membership subcommittee, our chair is not here, but I don't think we have any updates to our membership subcommittee. I know we have been looking to add new people to our RAC, so we do have an audience here. So I'm gonna suggest that if anybody here is interested in joining, you can contact Jody or Melissa here at the area agency, and hopefully we can get some new members. Thank you. Strategic Review Committee, Laura, do we have any updates?
No updates, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And I'm going to add to that. I didn't get a chance to tell Laura. So we are in the process of wanting to get another meeting set up. The State Unit on Aging is asking for our latest update on our 4-year plan. And so I will be following up with Laura and the rest of the committee to get a date set for that, for us to review those and also review with the staff so that we'll have information to send up to the State Unit on Aging. They are very pleased that we have our document that we're tracking on a quarterly basis, and always looking forward to what we can give them as updates. So stay tuned for that.
Since we have an audience, maybe we can just talk a little bit about what the Strategic Review Committee does. And it's usually made up of the members of the RAC that are volunteering for it. So I don't know, Melissa, Laura?
So I'll jump in a little bit. I do happen to have the folder in front of me. That was my reminder to talk with Laura about this today. And so we do have, for those of you who are in the room and are familiar with the 4-year plan, there's a lot of goals and a lot of work to do over the 4 years. And the Strategic Review Subcommittee with the Regional Advisory Council pulls out certain things that they are specifically tracking. So it doesn't necessarily include everything in the 4-year plan, but for each year, the RAC picks some different areas that they want to be looking and specifically asking about. And so for this year, what the RAC was looking at, of course, is transportation. The next thing that they were looking at was broadband access, and how older adults were getting access to digital resources and having access in their homes or in their communities. Another piece that they are looking at is information and assistance. Again, some folks will remember that, it's really hard for older adults across our 3 counties to find out where to get information. And so what kinds of resources and activities are happening to get more information out to the communities. And then also they're tracking volunteer usage and also equity in terms of how diverse populations are being outreached to and served. So those were the categories that for this year the RAC is focused on. And I would like to take a minute. We do have a past RAC member in the audience who really led the charge to make sure that we, once the 4-year plan was adopted, that the RAC continued to use it as an opportunity to monitor and track resources and what was happening. And that's Mr. Dave Betzler. He's sitting in the room, and he was part of the group that really spearheaded making this happen, that we didn't just do the 4-year plan and it sat on a shelf. So thank you to the folks that were part of that, which also be Jody, Joe Urban. If I'm missing someone, please let me know.
Jen Nimmo was part of that.
And Jen, who's on the call with us, thank you. So really nice to have that document and continue to be working on it. And I think that's what I will share. And Laura, if you want to add any other comments, or Jody.
I have no further comments, but I thank you very much for the review, and thank you, Dave. Good to see you.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Laura. Yes, and thank you for those who previously served on what we now know as the Strategic Review Subcommittee. At the time, it was really around the 4-year plan, how to develop that, how to implement it, and now with the work that has been done behind us, really allows us to find the priorities that are important to our communities across the 3 regions. And so, to the list that Melissa gave, as you saw, it's not entirely inclusive of all the services that are offered, but it does allow us to prioritize based on the need, based on what we heard back in our community conversations. I was sharing yesterday at UCCS in a gerontology class that the Older Americans Act requires us to do 3 outreach meetings, 3 community conversations, as they're called. We did 32 community conversations for this process. And so we use our 4-year plan as our implementation. It really is a strategic plan that doesn't just sit on a shelf. And so we're very proud of that and proud of the fact that we're able to already look back at what is happening, even if it's something that we can't directly fund. For example, we can be engaged in the process, such as broadband is a great example of that. So thank you very much, Melissa and Laura, for leading the SRS committee now.
And I think we passed that information back to the state regarding our follow through. I don't know how many other area agencies do that. As a member of the RAC, I'm really proud that we take the time and energy to follow up on our strategic plan.
That is actually part of our process with our state unit on aging here in Colorado. And so the reporting that Melissa alluded to early on is part of that process, where we'll provide our tracking tool as well as updates to the most recent request. So yes, we do that.
Great, thank you, Jody. The next letter D there is the TRS, which is the Technical Review Subcommittee, and my name is next to that. I was the chair.
Yes, you were.
I'm not the chair any longer of that committee. So maybe you could spend a little time explaining what the TRS does.
Sure. So the TRS, that's a Technical Review Subcommittee. For those guests in the room, they review the funding and how it's to be allocated. We use the requests that are sent to us through a request for proposal, RFP process. But then we also engage the TRS subcommittee when there is carryover that reaches a certain amount. Even though last year our carryover was quite minimal, we did still engage the TRS committee in the review so that there was public input to the process and the distribution of those funds. So the TRS is really an ad hoc committee, an as needed committee. We do expect to receive carryover funding this fall. And so once we know when and how much, our providers will be communicated with. We'll also be communicating with our TRS members and start that process all over again. Then again, in the spring, when the annual allocation is ready for us to distribute as well. So,
Jody, next is your director's report. I don't know if you have anything else.
Thank you. Yes, it's actually been quite a busy time. The State Unit on Aging has been reviewing the new federal regulations that were released back in February-March timeframe. The Older Americans Act regulations had not been updated since 1988. We have a State Unit on Aging member who likes to, when she says that, she says, "And I wasn't even born yet." So gives me a little bit of a headache, but the reality is the rules and regs had not been updated since 1988, and so the feds, along with input from state units on aging as well as AAAs across the nation, did do some updates to the regulations. Those were updated and released to us, like I said, kind of February-March timeframe. The purpose and role of the State Unit on Aging and the Older Coloradans Act that we're going to be discussing a little bit later is really to interpret those rules at the state level and provide implementation and policies and procedures to that. So that has been a big task that all 16 AAAs across the state of Colorado have been engaged with the State Unit on Aging within CDHS here in the state of Colorado. We have a lot of work to do yet. There's some updates and policies and procedures that we'll be engaging with the State Unit on Aging in a lot of meetings to do that. But most importantly, it's a way to make sure that we are meeting the requirements of ultimately the Older Americans Act at the federal level. So there's a lot going on with that. In fact, Melody, our associate director, and I were up in Denver this past week reviewing some prioritization tools with one of our providers out of Denver. And 3 other AAAs, because we all work with that organization. And so we're really coming together as a team to find the best way to interpret the rules that are made at the federal level, interpreted at the state level, and then we provide that interpretation again at the boots on the ground level. And it's important for us to be able to provide that input so that they can understand what that really looks like and what they're asking of us. And so that was a really good meeting. In my email of last week, I mentioned the candidate forums on aging that is being put on by several organizations that are wanting to make sure that our candidates who are running, whether they have already served at the state level or are new candidates for House and Senate districts, truly understand as best possible the needs of our aging population across the state of Colorado. So I was able to participate in one yesterday, which was primarily the western slope and western side of Colorado, but it did include Park County. And so I did sit in on that to make sure we were represented. The next one for South and Southeastern Colorado is today, right after our celebration. And so I will be ducking away at the end of that. I'll be doing the introduction and describing what AAAs are and what we do and how we use the funds and that kind of thing. And so myself and my colleague out of Pueblo will be doing the opening address to our legislators this morning or this afternoon. So really excited about that. As I mentioned, we do know that there's going to be carryover funds. We don't know the amount or how that is going to be provided to us by parts yet. So those providers who are with us today, keep your ears and watching for my email when we know. We'll be sharing that out and the process for accessing or requesting those funds. So at this time, Madam Chair, I will close and give it back to you.
Thank you. And I just have a short report. I just want to thank the committee for indulging me in describing our subcommittees for the folks that are here. Hopefully we will get some people interested in volunteering. And the only other thing that I have is that we've been waiting to appoint a new person as the chair of the Technical Review Subcommittee, and Gordon Rick, maybe you can raise your hand, has said that he will be doing that. So I am appointing him as chair of the TRS subcommittee. And again, the next time that it meets, I think will be around those additional funds.
Yes, the carryover funds.
Carryover funds.
Yeah.
I think I am still on that committee, and I hope to continue doing that. I think that's all that I have. I don't think we have any discussion items at this time. And so I'll just mention our meeting schedule. The next RAC meeting is October the 24th. And we have an executive committee meeting where all the subcommittee chairs attend. It's a Zoom meeting, and that's the first Wednesday at 11. And I think the next one is October the 2nd. And then the PPACG meeting, which is scheduled for October 9th. And so with all ado, I will adjourn this meeting unless somebody else has anything they'd like to add.
No, ma'am. We'll adjourn for just a few minutes. Folks online, stay with us. You'll keep the same Teams link, so don't hang up. And for those of you in the room, feel free to stretch your legs, bio break. Restrooms are out this hallway. Men's is the first hallway. Second, ladies is the second hallway. And we will resume at 10:30 for our celebration. So thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
One is, where were you in 1974?
I don't think very many people in
The
the
other
room, but I'll read it again.
Oh, yes.
So if you haven't taken a minute and written the comments up there, please, for the time to either share it with your neighbor.
Is anybody
or
else
send it
happy
along.
by?